Some people leave scars you can touch. And some people leave ones so deep, you don't even realize you're bleeding until the middle of the night, when everything is quiet and the truth has nowhere else to hide. Tonight, the truth is knocking. And it has a gun. Clapperboard, pause.
Please
let
don't
silence
shoot.
breathe for
Back
2
off,
seconds.
now! We don't want any
She swore
trouble!
she would never
Too late,
call him.
move!
8 months of silence. 8 months of rebuilding. 8 months of convincing herself that she was fine, that she didn't need the man whose name still felt like a thunderstorm in her chest. But when the water breaks and armed men are standing outside your door, you stop keeping promises to yourself. Clapperboard, Antiero, character introduction warm, cinematic tone. Her name is Sloane Hart. And once upon a time, she was loved by the most dangerous man in the city. She was the kind of woman who walked into a room and quietly rearranged the air. Not because she tried to, but because something about her simply demanded to be felt. She had a laugh that could dissolve tension, a stubbornness that could outlast stone, and a heart so full of love it had nearly destroyed her when she chose to walk away. His name is Damon Valente. CEO on paper. King in the shadows. A man built of precision, controlled fury, and a loyalty so fierce it had consumed everything he'd ever loved, including her. He signed the divorce papers 8 months ago. Not because he wanted to. But because she'd asked him to, and Damon Valente had never once been able to deny Sloane anything she truly needed. Even when what she needed was his absence. The phone vibrated at 2:11 in the morning. Damon was still awake. He usually was. Sleep had become a stranger since the divorce, another casualty of letting her go. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his penthouse, 40 stories above a city that glittered like scattered diamonds on black velvet, when the screen lit up with a name he hadn't let himself say aloud in 8 months. Sloane. He stared at it. His jaw tightened. Every instinct honed over 15 years in this world told him to let it ring. To let the past stay buried where lawyers and silence had placed it. But Sloane never called. Not when she moved out. Not when she returned his grandmother's ring by courier. Not once in 8 months. Which meant she was calling now because something was wrong. He answered on the 4th ring. Said nothing. Damon. Her voice came through the line ragged, breathless, wrapped in a pain that made his entire body go rigid. I need you to listen. Please. Don't hang up. I'm listening. I'm in labor. The words tumbled out in a rush. The baby is yours. I know I should have told you. I know this is wrong, but Damon, there is someone outside my door. They're not knocking. They're just waiting. The world sharpened into crystal clarity. He was already moving. What floor? 3rd. Apartment 3F. Lock yourself in the bathroom. Towels under the door. Don't make a sound. He crossed to the wall safe behind the modernist painting Sloane had once called pretentious. Inside, 3 passports, 200,000 in cash, and a Glock 19 he'd hoped he'd never need again. I'm 10 minutes out. Maybe 8. Damon, what if they come in before? They won't. He stepped into the private elevator, his voice dropping to something low and absolute. Because I'm going to be there. And anyone still standing in that hallway is going to regret every choice that led them to your door. She exhaled. Shaky. But steadier. You sound different, she whispered. I am different. The elevator opened onto the parking garage. 3 vehicles. He walked straight to the armored Range Rover. The one built for nights exactly like this. But not different enough, he said quietly, to let someone threaten what's mine. I'm not yours anymore. The words came out automatic. Like she'd been rehearsing them for months. We can debate that later, he said. Right now, tell me everything. When did this start? The stalking or the labor? His hands tightened on the wheel. Both answers terrified him equally. Last time, we left Sloane in labor with armed men outside her door, and Damon racing through empty streets at 2 a.m., choosing, without hesitation, the woman he'd let go. But the danger is only getting closer. And the name that just surfaced in connection with tonight's threat? It's someone Damon trusted with his life. She had been smart. Even alone. Even terrified and 8 months pregnant and trying to breathe through contractions at 2 in the morning, Sloane Hart had been methodical. She told him between gasps about the key card portal that had started glitching 3 weeks ago. About the packages left at her door, small, unmarked, containing things she'd mentioned wanting months ago. A specific tea. A book she'd glanced at once in a store window. The super started acting weird, she said. Wouldn't look me in the eye. Kept asking if I was expecting visitors. Damon's jaw tightened until it could have cracked concrete. He had let her go because she'd wanted a life without looking over her shoulder. Without wondering if every stranger was a threat. He had loved her enough to give her peace. And someone had watched him walk away, and seen opportunity. He neutralized the street surveillance with terrifying efficiency. The driver of the first car, barely 25, all gym muscle and no real violence in him, gave up a name in 30 seconds. Vince Leon. The name landed like ice water in Damon's chest. Vince Leon was his fixer. 3 years of loyalty. 3 years of trust. The man who handled delicate jobs, who knew every pressure point in Damon's operation, and who, apparently, had decided to use that knowledge against the one person Damon would die to protect. The van was Messier. One man ended up with a bullet in his shoulder. But the information they gave confirmed what Damon already feared: someone wanted Sloane's location in real time. They wanted to know when she was vulnerable. When she would be easiest to take. He made it to her floor in 6 minutes. The 2 men outside 3F were professionals. Not hired amateurs, actual operators. Damon didn't announce himself. He simply put a round in the door frame and closed the distance before their training could override their shock. It was over in 45 seconds. The apartment door opened and there she was. One hand braced against the frame. The other pressed against her enormous belly. Dark hair pulled into a messy knot. Face pale with pain and fear and something else he couldn't quite name. 8 months. He had spent 8 months trying to forget what she looked like. Now, seeing her, he realized he hadn't forgotten a single detail. He had just been lying to himself about how much it mattered. "You're bleeding," she said, staring at his hands. "It's not mine." He closed the distance between them. "Can you walk?" "I can try." She couldn't. Not really. A contraction hit before she'd taken 3 steps, 90 seconds of controlled agony that left her gripping the wall, her knuckles white. 2 minutes since the last one, she gasped. "Then we're out of time." He reached for her. "I'm going to carry you." "Damon, I weigh." "I don't care." He lifted her as if she weighed nothing. Arms around his neck. Her breath warm against his jaw. Her whole body trembling with exhaustion and pain and the terror of a night that should never have happened. His sister Mara was waiting with an armored SUV. A mobile medical setup in the back seat. They were moving before the doors had fully closed. Then came the cars behind them. A dark sedan. A motorcycle. Both matching their speed exactly. Mara drove like she'd been born to it, cutting across lanes, baiting the sedan into overshooting, forcing the motorcycle to choose between following and surviving. Damon put 3 rounds into the bike's front tire without hesitation. It went down in a spray of sparks. The sedan lost them at a highway exit. All of it, while Sloane breathed through contractions that were now 90 seconds apart. "There's something you should know," Sloane said, her voice barely above a whisper between contractions. "Tell me later." "No. Now." She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. I didn't just keep the baby a secret. I've been documenting everything. The stalking, the behavior, all of it. Photos. Recordings. Dates and times. It's all in a cloud drive only I can access. He stared at her. Why? He asked. Her eyes were fierce despite everything. Because I knew that if something happened, I'd need proof. I'd need leverage. I'd need to be believed. Pride and pain hit him in equal measure. She had been alone, pregnant, frightened, and she had protected herself the only way she could. You'll give me the login now, he said. In case you can't later. She opened her mouth to argue. Then another contraction hit, the strongest one yet. When it passed, she was crying. I'm scared, she whispered. I know. He pulled her against his chest, one hand cradling her head, the other still holding the gun. But you're not alone anymore. Dr. Reese Calder's clinic looked abandoned from the outside. Inside, it was pristine, a fully equipped medical facility that asked no questions and kept no public records. The doctor was already scrubbing in when Damon carried Sloane through the door. Contractions under 60 seconds, Damon said. Put her on the bed and give me 2 minutes. Calder examined Sloane with calm efficiency. 8 centimeters. Baby's in good position. Everything looks normal for someone in active labor. Then why does it feel wrong? Sloane gasped. Because it's your first baby, Calder said matter-of-factly, and labor feels like the world is ending. Your body knows what it's doing, even if your brain doesn't trust it yet. Mara's voice cut through from across the room. Damon. Vince Leon's phone has been to this address 3 times in the last 2 weeks. 50,000 in cash withdrawals over the past month. Multiple calls to a burner phone pinging off towers near Sloane's building. Where is he now? 15 minutes from here. Damon looked at Sloane. She was in transition, her body pushing toward something irreversible and beautiful and terrifying all at once. He wanted to stay. He needed to be there. But Calder was right. She needed him outside those doors more than she needed him watching her suffer. He leaned down and pressed his lips to her forehead. Felt her breath catch. I'll be right outside, he said quietly. You need me, you scream. Damon. I'm not going anywhere, he said. Not this time. Not ever again. Emotional, slow delivery. Their daughter was born at 4:47 in the morning. 7 pounds, 3 ounces. A full head of dark hair. Lungs like a trumpet. Damon heard the cry from outside the door and felt something he didn't have a word for, something that broke open in his chest like light through a crack in stone. He was through the door before Calder could invite him in. Sloane was propped against the pillows, exhausted and radiant and crying in the way people only cry when something impossible has just become real. The baby was on her chest, tiny and furious and perfect. He sat on the edge of the bed. Sloane leaned her head against his shoulder without a word. He wrapped his arm around her, careful of every bruise, every tube, every precious tired piece of her. She has your eyes, Sloane said softly. She has your stubbornness. He looked down at his daughter. I can already tell. A broken, exhausted laugh. The best sound he had ever heard. What happens now? She whispered. He thought about Vince Leon, who would be dealt with by morning. About the cloud drive full of evidence Sloane had kept like armor. About whoever had given the orders tonight, still out there, still calculating. He thought about all of it. And then he set it aside. Now, he said, we figure out how to do this together. I left because I was afraid of your world. I know. And your world found me anyway. I know that, too. He turned to look at her, really look at her, for the first time without lawyers between them, without 8 months of silence and distance. But I'm not asking you to live in my world, Sloane. I'm asking you to let me stand in front of it. Between you and everything in it that wants to touch you. She was quiet for a long time. Their daughter made a small, soft sound between them. That's a terrifying offer, she said finally. I know. It's also the only one I've ever wanted. He pressed his lips to her temple. She closed her eyes. Outside, the city was beginning to exhale, the darkest hour giving way to something pale and hopeful on the horizon. Neither of them had slept. Neither of them noticed. Before we close the chapter on Damon and Sloane, let me take you back to the beginning. Because every love story that survives something impossible deserves to be told from the start. Sloane Hart was the woman who had the courage to walk away from a love that scared her. Not because the love wasn't real, but because the world that came with it terrified her in ways she couldn't explain. She had wanted safety. Ordinary mornings. A life where she didn't hold her breath every time her phone rang. She got 8 months of that life. And then her water broke, armed men appeared outside her door, and she made the call she had sworn she would never make. Because when everything is stripped away, the pride, the fear, the careful distance we put between ourselves and the people who hurt us, we call the ones who would walk through fire without being asked. That is who Damon Valente was to her. Not perfect. Not safe. But absolute. He answered the phone without a word. He was moving before she finished her first sentence. He drove through red lights and cleared a hallway full of hired threats with the controlled precision of a man who had spent 15 years preparing for a night he hoped would never come. He carried her down 3 flights of stairs. He held her through contractions while also holding a gun out a car window. He sat outside a delivery room and listened to his daughter come into the world, and then he walked through that door like a man who had finally come home. Their daughter was born at 4:47 in the morning. 7 pounds of proof that some connections cannot be divorced away. Vince Leon was handled by Dawn. The cloud drive Sloane had built like armor, every photograph, every recording, every date and time, became the foundation of a reckoning that dismantled the operation piece by piece. The person who had ordered surveillance on a pregnant woman in labor faced consequences that Damon Valente ensured were permanent. And Sloane? Sloane looked at the man sitting beside her hospital bed, exhausted, still marked with the evidence of the night's violence, holding a 7-pound girl like she was made of something sacred, and she made a different kind of choice than the one she'd made 8 months ago. She chose to trust that love, when it is real, does not disappear because you sign a paper. It waits. It watches from a distance. It answers the phone at 2 a.m. and doesn't ask a single question except, "What floor?" The life lesson, speak slowly. This is the moment. The life lesson. If this story taught us anything, let it be this. We often leave the people who love us the most, not because they failed us, but because we are afraid of what loving them requires. We are afraid of vulnerability. Of need. Of being the person who reaches out in the dark and admits they cannot do it alone. But real love is not found in the easy moments. It is not proven in the comfortable ones. It is revealed in the 2 a.m. phone calls. In the ones who move before you finish asking. In the people who show up, not because it is convenient or safe or uncomplicated, but because the idea of not showing up is simply not something they are capable of. You are not weak for needing someone. You are not foolish for loving someone whose world frightens you. And you are not too late, as long as the phone is still ringing and the right person is still willing to answer. Don't let pride cost you the love that was built to survive your worst night. If this story moved you, if some part of Sloane or Damon felt like something you've carried before, then you already know this channel is for you. We tell stories here that don't let you go. Stories about love that survives betrayal. About people who choose each other even when it costs them everything. About second chances that look nothing like the first and feel even better. Hit the subscribe button, because the next story is already waiting for you, and you don't want to miss where it goes. Drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have answered that call? Would you have made it? Share this with someone who needs to believe in love tonight. And I'll see you in the next chapter.